If one black person dies from another black person's hand on this planet, anywhere today, every black person who is celebrating should stop that celebration right there and say, I just came over. Another black person was killed over in Sumatra somewhere, all right, Mongolia, or wherever. No time to celebrate. No time to celebrate. Forget about the barbecue. And let's start becoming universal man and universal woman and taking into account this entire universe that we have been given so politely, so kindly by our Creator, and stop this kindergarten foolishness like we are trapped in, like racism, and bowing down to it and slaughtering each other while we are bowing down to racism. And we're not even making any kind of effort that you can call an effort, because we're not using our time correctly. Now, that's what the code says. In answer to the question, I'm saying that's why it's lasted so long, because we're not really on the case at all. Just wait till there's a George Floyd and then, get another sign or 3,000 or 4,000 of them and march through the streets and have a few white people, who are kind of bored and yawning and whatnot. So they come down and join the parade for 5 or 6 days, and then back to business as usual.
Yeah, because we got to take another break because we're close to the top of the hour, so some of our stations need to identify themselves per the FCC. Stations like FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
The Carl Nelson Show. On 1450 and 95.9. Worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr., discussing racism and white supremacy. And later on, he's going to tell us about a code. That's a short name for his book. It's a workbook. And if you work through this book, you understand what some of the problems that we're going through. Mr. Fuller, one of the questions that Ben in Long Beach asked was can an individual obtain freedom from racism and white supremacy, but the rest of the group, the rest of us, is still trapped in it?
It has to be each individual with a code, which is something we don't have. This is why the white supremacist is so successful. They don't look around to see how many people are with them. They have a code. One white supremacist can go anywhere on the planet among any dark-skinned people, just one. And he doesn't have any buddies and whatnot. He's not a gang, but he has a code. It's called a white supremacist code. Or it may not be by that name. It can be by any name. But that's what it is, because a code is something that every time you do it, it works. A plumbing code and an electrical code. Any kind of code. When you say you have a code, it means every time you do it, it works. The white supremacists produce a white supremacist code. So one white supremacist can go on some island somewhere amongst a whole bunch of dark people at 9 o'clock in the morning and hang around there till about 12. And about 12 o'clock, at the stroke of 12, have all those people following him or her, if they're people of color, gathering around. They can do that if they really want to. Why? Because they enact the code. They say, these people, they don't know the white code, but they will know it by noon today. Or they will be aware of it, but they won't know how I did what I am going to do while I am here between 9 o'clock in the morning and between 12 o'clock noon. I'm going to have them eating out of my hand. Why? Because I got a lot of power or a gun and all like that? No, I brought with me one thing, a code of what a white supremacist is supposed to do and say when you get around dark people. And that's what they have. And it's been the most successful code for ruling people ever thought up in the minds of people since people were created, up to the year 2022 at least. And in answer to the question, we need a code. I'm trying to write one, and I'm saying every black person. I mean, we've written this type, about every type of book you can name, about, and the books are essential about black history and all like that. But the one thing we haven't been doing is what to do about anything. And just in the last 3 or 4 years, for the first time, there's been a few black people who are attempting, and I'm one of them, to write something or even to say something about what do you do under every circumstance. Any circumstance you're presented with. Do you have a code that every time you do it, it works? It works to your interest in that circumstance. Have we ever even attempted to have one? The answer is no. But we will talk about the problem forever and argue with each other in barbershops and everywhere else about what somebody ought to do. And the closest thing we have had to a code is slogans. One of the most popular ones is what? We got to get together. I hope I never hear that again. Now, what we got to do is get together. Now, we had, I want Mr. So-and-so to step forward to the mic here, and I'm going to give him a chance to, and then I'm going to have Miss So-and-so, and I'm going to have Dr. So-and-so, and each one of them that comes to the mic, after they talk and talk and talk, they'll say, now, here's the solution. What we need to do is get together. Anybody ever heard that? Well, that's it. That's it. That's what I came, 2,000 miles forward to tell you today. That, I had a eureka moment last night, and I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, all of black people's problems. And I came up with a solution. We have to get together, people, don't we? And then everybody applauds and stomps and go back to the lemonade table. And then you come back to the next year and do the same thing. That's not a code. A code means when you're talking to a white person and you're negotiating, you don't come out losing, all right? When you're interacting with other black people, something constructive happens every time. It's never anything non-constructive. You need a code to do that. But we haven't even attempted to have one. We just got a bunch of slogans. We get a new slogan about every 15 months. I've timed it. And we think that that's a plan. But, that's a solution to black people's problems. Come up with another slogan. We know what they all are. I'm not knocking slogans, but slogans serve a purpose. Slogans are like titles of books. A book should have a title. But when you turn the pages, there should be something in the book rather than blank pages. Or if there's anything in there, every page says, we got to get together. We got to come together, people. See, we got all kind of fancy ways of saying it. But that's not a code for success. You have to have precision work. And when I say this, they're going to say this. And then when I say this, my opposition is going to say this, 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 and this. It's like playing chess. You always are able to predict, that's what a code is, what your opponent is going to do before they do it. That's a code. And you be ready for it when they make their move. You say, I knew they was going to move there because there was no place else for them to move. And when they do, then I'm going to make my move, my codified move. and their opposition is going to shatter. That's a code, folks. That's what we need. And that's what everybody should be writing. And that's what I've been trying to attempt to do.
All right.
What can we do about it? Code, C-O-D-E. That's what we need.
Right. 800-450-7876. And that's the short title of the book, by the way. And before he leaves, I'm going to let him make sure that he tells you how you can get a copy. Because once you get that workbook, you'll understand how the system of racism and white supremacy works. Line 4, I think it's Quaco from Milwaukee. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, forgive me.
No, Brother Carl, this is Dr. Kwaku Ramel Smith from Milwaukee. How you doing, good sir? Yes. First of all, it's good to be on your show, Brother Carl, but I want to just make sure I give all respect to the elder, Brother Fuller. When I listen to his words, it's just as powerful to me as when I read The Miseducation of the Negro. And as a person who went through the system of white supremacy and had to try to retrain myself to think in a manner in a code and to be able to be better for myself and for my people, I get a little nervous because I think if we do become this universal man, this universal woman, and we get a collective enough to get together, understanding the height and the negative and the evil of white supremacy, and all other times when there was cultures and those cultures fell down, whether it be the Egyptians, whether it be the Romans, whether it be the Russian czars, things of that nature, they didn't have the power for nuclear capability. If we were to become that universal man and universal woman and then be able to destroy the aspects of white supremacy, would they allow it to happen without there being an Armageddon?
We'll find that out, because we're not going to have the kind of world that we need without getting rid of the system of white supremacy. I didn't say get rid of white people. I'm saying, but they got to get rid of this system that everybody's wedded to. We're all a part of this system. We've never known any other system. Now, the white supremacists are not going to want to turn loose to it because it provides what everybody wants. Everybody wants three things. Every person on this planet, when they get up in the morning, they want three things. They want to have fun, they want glory, and they want material comfort. That's what gets you out of bed. You're looking forward to having fun at some point. Squirrels like to have fun. Ducks like to have fun. You watch ducks and whatnot, they like to have fun. And they like glory. They peck in their feathers and whatnot and try to clean them up and whatnot, and being well thought of by other ducks, okay? Or by anybody, by people. That way they don't get shot, all right? So even animals, they want fun, they want glory, they want material comfort. Some white person sometime in the past discovered you could get a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of glory, being well thought of, being looked up to, being highly regarded. That's what glory is. And a whole lot of material comfort out of building something called the system of white supremacy, which means dominating and mistreating people based on the color of their skin. It's the most powerful political and religious idea ever thought up in recorded history that's been successful. The most powerful. Other systems have been powerful, but no system has been more powerful and more long-running as successful, with not a whole lot of glitches. They've had some glitches, but not very many, because they are very scientific. The system of white supremacy is put together scientifically, not emotionally. And the victims of white supremacy depend on emotions, particularly the darkest of the people of the planet. Everything that we do is based on emotion.
Right there. Yeah, because we're going to take another short break. 800-450-7876. You want to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. about racism and white supremacy, you've reached the right spot. And we'll take your calls after this short break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power. Thanks for rolling with us, folks. I guess it's Neely Fuller Jr. Some of you know him as Dr. Francis Quest Welson's mentor, discussing racism, white supremacy. and how to deal with it, how to handle it. He says we need a code. As black folks, we need a code. Kwaku in Milwaukee, I thank you for your call. Mr. Fuller, I'm going to let you finish your response to Kwaku's question because we've got a bunch of other folks. I got questions for you as well.
Yes, people sometimes ask me, or told me rather, like years ago, someone told me, Fuller, you're talking about this code. I mean, how are you going to keep it from the white supremacists? If you got a code, don't you know that they know it? I said, of course, that's logical. They say, you got a code for breaking out of the white supremacist prison system, or rather eroding it and replacing it with the system of justice, and they don't know about it. I said, I'm not trying to keep them from knowing about it. I want them to know about it because it's a just code. You don't try to hide your methods of going about producing justice. You don't have to. You don't have to have any secrets. Black people can't keep secrets no way. There's an old saying, if two black people know it, everybody knows it, because one of them is going to tell it, okay? So just forget that. That ain't a part of the code. Anything that you say, be ready to repeat it to the entire world. That's a part of the code. We're talking about getting a code. Another part of the code is, and the most important part, black people have to stop making contact with each other unless we have something constructive to say or do. I mean, that is a real killer. Black people making contact with each other for no constructive reason. We're just making contact. Why? Because whatever reason we give, I mean, we're bored or whatever. No. You don't make we have all kinds of ways to communicate now. The white supremacists, directly and indirectly, have provided that. So we have ways of just picking up some type of communication device that we have in our pocket and communicate all over the world like we're communicating now. But if you don't have anything constructive to say to whomever you're going to talk to, particularly when black people talk to each other, you don't make a call of any kind. I don't care if it takes 10 years for you to find something constructive to say. We need to have that as a part of our code. We don't make conversation just to be talking, just because we can't stand silence. I can understand being in prison. I mean, how silence, I mean, is, hey, you got to make some noise. We even have a slang. One of our slangs is what? We got to make some noise. We get put out of apartments on account of the noise we make because we've been suppressed so long. It's understandable. But have something to say that is of constructive value every time you talk to anybody about anything. And if it's not constructive, we got to get in the habit of becoming the most silent people in the world. Go from being the noisiest people in the world to the most silent people in the world. And when you hear a black person say something, you take out your pen and pad because that black person is fixing to say something that's going to really be of constructive value. Because black people should have the reputation for not talking at all here in 2022. Not talking at all unless once they start talking, everybody grabs a pen and pad because you're going to hear something that's really going to help you do something that's going to produce what? 2 words. A constructive result. Constructive result. Those are the 2 words. Constructive result. That should be our reputation by the end of this year at least. 2022. We can do it. All you got to do is just make up your mind. We need a code to do it. We're going to have to practice doing it. Fixing to make another call, and we say, wait a minute. Am I going to solve a problem for this person or for me or for somebody in the most constructive manner by this call I'm fixing to make? Or am I just calling just to chat? Well, this is okay in a perfect world. But we have all kinds of problems. We should be solving problems. That's why every black person, as part of the code, says every black person should look upon him or herself as being born for the reason, problem solving. That's why we were born. So that we have a reputation when somebody sees a black person coming. They say, no, that used to be a troublemaker coming. But no, that's a problem solver coming. Anytime you see a black person, you're looking at a problem solver, because that's what they think about doing all the time. They do not have a thought unless it has to do with constructive problem solving and producing a what? Constructive result in any move that they make, anything that they say or do. If they get ready to drink something, it's going to be a problem solver, not a problem maker. It's not going to be anything in that drink that's going to make a problem. If you see that black person getting ready to eat a meal, it's not going to be one ingredient in that meal that's not going to help to solve a problem of the brain and body. You're not going to see them with a plate full of anything that's not going to do that. See, now that's going to be difficult for us to do, but it really isn't if we codify it and say we're going to do it. I have difficulty doing it, so if you can't use Neely Fuller as an example, in fact, you can't use anybody as an example because there aren't any. So that's the code. We need a code for everything, every move. You can't have exceptions. Say, well, I'm not going to codify this. I'm going to make an exception in this case. No. The white supremacists, when they get serious, and they're serious when they act like they're not serious. When they're really serious, they got everything codified, right down to the last nail, hammer, paper clip. Oh, yeah. That's why they are super man and super woman, meaning supreme over all of the non-white people of this entire planet 24/7. Because they are serious when they act like they're not. They are serious about their foolishness and know just how far to go. And they do engage in a whole bunch of foolishness, but they know that they're not in danger when they do. Black people are in danger all the time because we don't have a plan for anything that makes sense, collectively or individually.
Because we got a bunch of folks from all across the country got questions for you. Quaker in Milwaukee, I thank you for your question. 800-450-7876. And Johnny in Long Beach, California, what's your question for Neely Fuller Jr.?
How you doing, Carl? How you doing, Mr. Fuller? Thanks for taking my call. Mr. Fuller, I wanted to ask your opinion about the Supreme Court judge and her being married to a white man and the thing that's going on in Ukraine. And it's like, some people don't feel like we should care about that. What say you?
Well, I'll answer the last question first. We should care about everything going on the planet because it's going to affect you directly, indirectly, one way or another. And everything that's going on every other planet, you can find out, because it's going to affect you one way or another, directly, indirectly. That's what the white supremacists do. The white supremacists, and I have it in my book, they go to the bottom of the ocean and find one grain of sand and study it for 50 years. Just one grain of sand. And I'll walk by and say, hey, Brian, what you doing there? What are you up to now? He said, I'm looking through this microscope. Looking through the microscope for what? Well, I'm looking at this grain of sand. It has a peculiar look. It's not like most sand. I say, what are you studying a grain of sand for? I say, because it's on the planet with me. See, now that's how a white supremacist thinks. That's why they're so powerful. That's why they're just so awful powerful. Study a grain of sand simply because it's on the planet with him. I walked past a whole whole pile of sand, and I didn't even notice it, except to raise some sand maybe before I get to the next corner, particularly if I see another black person. Okay. Now, that first question was what?
The Supreme Court justice being married to a white man.
Oh, the code says, now this is already in the code book, the one that I have, you can get by going to producejustice.com. So no such thing as a black person being married to anybody in the system of white supremacy. Prisoners of war, always keep that in mind, are not married. Once you become a prisoner of war, you're not married to nothing. You are powerless to the nth degree. You are zero. You have nothing. Nothing you can call yours. Not a wife, not a husband. So the code doesn't allow me to get personal with people. That's another part of the code. But I'm just saying what the logic says. The logic says you cannot be a prisoner of war and be married. So every black person walking around on this planet who thinks that they are married, they're not married because they are prisoners of war. Prisoners of war, what war? The war between the people who believe in and practice white supremacy and the white supremacists who captured the non-white people, and they have never been out of captivity, so they are prisoners of war. That's what. According to Neely Fuller? No, according to the evidence. So prisoners of war are not married. That's number one. And in the system of white supremacy, another part of the code says this. It ain't personal, it's business. If you are a person of color and you are so-called married to a white person in the system of white supremacy, you are, as a prisoner of war, not married. You are being further victimized. Why? Where's the logic? Because a white person in the system of white supremacy is the master person. Marriage is between equals. So the white partner in any so-called marital relationship between a black person and a white person, whomever that white person is the most powerful person because they're in the system of white supremacy. And that black person is a prisoner of war. It's like a black school teacher once remarked.
Hold that thought right there, Mr. Fuller. We got to take a short break. We'll hear about the black teacher on the other side of this break. Right here, it's the Big Show. Continues to roll on from Radio 1's flagship station. We're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power. And thanks for staying with us. Johnny, thank you for your call out of Long Beach. So, Mr. Fuller, Neely Fuller's our guest. Now, I guess tell you all the time you've got to listen real keenly.
I was going to ask another question.
No, we're going to let you go, John. We've got a bunch of folks trying to get at Mr. Fuller. Thank you. 800-450-7876. Mr. Fuller, I'm going to let you finish your response to Johnny. You was about to tell us about the teacher.
Yes, the prisoner of war thing again. I mean, either we're prisoners of war or we're not. When I say we, I mean people of color on the planet in 2022. Now, we're either that or not. Either Neely Fuller is saying something that's not true, or he's saying something that is true. There's no in between. So if I'm saying something that's not true, let's put it to a test and find out. That's how I find out. I mean, and I don't put it to a test. The test is put to me. And so, I thought that I was married. And then I began to look at how everything is run. I'm dependent on a hostile force to feed me, clothe me, and that hostile force of the white supremacists one way or another. I've been in a whole lot of situations where I thought that I could do this and thought that I could do that, and I realized I was a beggar, begging for a job, begging for this, begging for that. Even if I want to get a loan, that's begging. And directly, indirectly, I'm begging who? The white supremacists. That's why they're supreme. There's no money on this planet that's worth anything except the money that they say is worth something. So if I got everything from them, and my so-called spouse gets everything from them, how can I say that I'm a husband? They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a system to shelter a married couple, and that system doesn't exist for non-white people. So in answer to that question, a white person married to a black person, or any black person married to anybody in the system of white supremacy, that's impossible. Why? Because the system of white supremacy is hostile to the non-white person. And so the non-white person who considers, the white person who considers him or herself married to a black person is the most powerful person. They're not equal because that white person is classified as white in the system of white supremacy. And so the power center is whomever the white person is. Whether it's male or female, doesn't matter. Whomever the white person is the most powerful person. And that white person can go places and do things that non-white person can't do.
Working on building a dream space, but don't know where to start? At the Home Depot, we can help you bring your dream project to life. Whether you're building a backyard oasis, a podcast studio, or a wellness space, we've got everything you need in store and online. With project guides and free delivery options, it's easy to go from dreaming to doing. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
And so that's just a fact of the matter. That's just the truth of the matter. And people who are in that so-called relationship, if they've been in it in the time at all, I think if they're aware of anything, they're probably aware of that. I'm not telling them nothing that they don't already know. That black partner does not have the power that white partner has, particularly when they step out the door and go anywhere on the planet. Even though they're supposed to be a couple, no, the power is with the white person. And the lack of power is with the non-white person.
Got it. 800-450-7876. And keep stepping, Mr. Fuller. Jay's calling from Chicago on line 5. Jay, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. And Mr. Fuller, it's an honor to talk to you. And I guess my question is this. From what I'm hearing you describe, and I got your book, Universal Compensity Code. So, and I'm taking it as the universal man is somebody who's woke pretty much on all levels, and in his life, because of the things you describe in here: stay on code, always be constructive, or not engage in just frivolous conversation. So this is somebody who is woke 24/7. Am I correct? That's one question.
And you say, is anybody that so-called woke?
No one I know of at that level where he or she is, toward even well.
In other words, is anybody qualified, any non-white person qualified to be officially called universal man or universal woman? Is that the question?
But at the end product, this individual would be woke pretty much on all levels. And what
do you mean by woke?
That's a good question. Woke would be someone.
Okay, well, we can't start. We need to get rid of slangs unless we can tell what we're talking about, and that means we have to be very precise with every word we use.
Okay, so what I mean by woke is someone who's conscious. With engaging in, just like now, the conversation we're engaging in, someone who's conscious.
Well, let's not move too fast. I got to do this in a codified manner. What do you mean by conscious? See,
consciousness.
we just don't throw words around in codification. Everything is precise, like math. 1 and 1 is 2. A 2 is not the same as a 3. And every word that you use has to be precision, just like you're getting ready to go to the moon. You better not make one mistake, because that one mistake is going to cost you that whole trip.
Okay.
In other words, black people have to become mistake-proof. Now, that's something we all have to try, but this is the process in which we do. And one way to do that, starting with the language, is that we just don't throw words around that's not attached to a definition. You got to be able to define everything. Black people usually find that out when we're in court. All of a sudden, words become very important, and we go into shock. That's why we wind up doing a whole lot of time. So we should practice before we get in that situation how to use each and every word like a surgeon uses a knife.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you answered my next question. That was it. Where do we start at? And that's the start right there.
Yeah, well, a part of the code is, and this is something for everybody to remember, including me, all problems are solved through the process of doing what? Questions and answers. There's no exception to that rule. If you don't believe it, just keep trying it, or watch somebody who does it. The minute you start making statements, that's when you're in deep water. But if you just practice asking questions and getting answers to that question one at a time, and always get an answer to the first question before you move to the second. That's a part of the code. Never move to the second question without getting an answer to the first question, even if that answer is I don't know, which will be the answer, the correct answer, a lot of the time, practically most of the time. That's an answer. But you always get an answer to the first question before you move to the second question. Why? Because the logic says if you don't do that, you're going to get confused, because the first question was not answered. The first question is probably attached to the second question. So if you move to that second question and that becomes controversial, you've lost track of what you started out to do in the first place. So you should have gotten the first question straight, even if the answer is, like I said, I don't know. Now, that's rock-solid code. But all problems, getting back to the basic formula, there's never been a problem solved that wasn't solved through the process of questions and answers. All you got to do is just keep asking questions and getting answers. You can solve every problem in the universe, because that's how it's done.
Hey, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. 800-450-7876. Anthony's in Buffalo, New York. Is on line 2. Anthony, your question for Neely Fuller Jr. Anthony?
Yes, I'm here. Mr. Fuller, I wanted to ask you. So earlier I was walking up the street and I saw a truck, and the truck said code enforcement. And I believe that's referring to housing, but it made me think, and I said, as far as the code that you came up with, does that code eventually need enforcements, like as far as some sort of peoples or policing, that once the code is in place, then I think that we'll need someone to actually enforce the code. Is that correct?
All right.
No, well, you enforce the code if it's a counter-racist. See, now it's a word that goes before when you solve the race problem, which is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be solving the race problem. That's my assignment. That's why I was born. Why? Because that's the biggest problem that I've ever had. So you always work on the big problems before you get to the little problems. So if that's what I consider to be the assignment, and I think it's my assignment because I can't get away from it. You always know what your assignment is if you can't run from it. I mean, it always catches up with you. Then you know what your assignment is. You know why you were born. If you're trying to get away from the reason you were born, but the reason that, you don't want to take on that assignment, you want to do something else, but the assignment keeps catching up with you, and it gets in the way of everything that you're going to do or think you want to do. So the race problem kept jumping in front of me, every move that I made. So then I said, oh, Fuller, you're not supposed to be running from it. That's why you were born. You're supposed to be solving it. That's why it keeps jumping in front of you. So once I started getting into that, I started making sense of my entire existence. Because that is exactly what will happen. You'll know what you're supposed to be doing when you get into the problem-solving mode. Once you fall into that, I mean, you'll just be driven like a magnet toward the problem.
Hold that thought right there, Mr. Fuller. We're going to take a short break. Anthony, I thank you for your call. When we come back to, I want you to tell folks how they can get a copy of your book. It's a workbook. It's a code. That's what I call it because it's a long title, but Mr. Fuller will explain it and also tell you how you can pick up a copy. 800-450-7876 to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. Your call's next as the big show rolls on from FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I guess it's Neely Fuller Jr. And thank you, Anthony, for your call out of Buffalo. Before we go back to Mr. Fuller, though, just to remind you tomorrow, chematologist Tony Browder will be here. You got a question about Egypt, Egyptology, reach out to Brother Tony right here on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. All right, before I take another call for you, Mr. Fuller, how can people get a copy of your book? And give us the title of the book.
ProduceJustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is the method for ordering the book. It's 2 volumes there, actually 3, but most people want the latest one, which is the 2016 edition of what I call loosely the code book. I got 3 titles on there because I had to have 3 titles there for some reason. I just decided to put 3 titles on there to try to be as explicit as I possibly could, because a couple of the titles are not explicit enough. So I put a 3rd one there called the Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and or Action for Victims of Racism, which is white supremacy. And also there's a 2nd volume that's a word guide. Shows you how to use words, how not to use certain words, what words to ask questions about when other people use these words. Because one thing that the white supremacists are expert at, and that's the use of words. And they can tie you in knots with the use of words because they know black people are not very word savvy. Unless they're writing a song or something like that, then we can capture that. But that's something that comes from the individual black person. But in the English language, the white supremacists know that they can really get a black person the main thing that they want a black person to be, and that is confused. And one of the most powerful ways, the most powerful way to confuse a black person is through the use of language. You can get a black person to do almost anything through the use of language. Get them to do something that's absolutely stupid by the use of certain words, a certain way. And the black person will think that what he or she is doing is something smart, when it's just as stupid as it can be, on account of the fancy and skillful and masterful way that the white supremacists use language. So I have a word guide to help a black person to codify against this. See, by doing what? Knowing what questions to ask when they use certain words. And what questions asked after that first question is answered, and the 2nd, and the 3rd, and the 2000th. And the book will, once we start mastering the way that language is used, we don't have to speak a whole lot of different languages. We just speak the language that we are given, because we don't have time to do all that. And so, but we learn to speak it like we're using a box of tools, because that's all the language is, a toolbox. And you pick out of a toolbox, you know, if you're a carpenter, you pick out a saw or something like that when you need a saw. A hammer and a nail when you need a hammer and a nail. A saw doesn't do the same thing that a hammer and a nail does. Words are the same thing. They're the same way. We have to understand that. So you always choose words that will work for you, not against you. And when other people use words that are what? Confusing, you ask questions about it. Because the white supremacists are really good at that. They know how to use a lot of words that are absolutely confusing. And black people are sitting there nodding their heads like they understand what's being said when they don't understand nothing about what's being said, because nothing is being said that's going to help them. So you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And the basic 2 volumes are right there. Producejustice.com. Also the 1984 edition. Some people say they like the early edition of the basic 2016 edition. So that's there too on that website, producejustice.com. And I have that website under that name, producejustice.com, because that's what we're all supposed to be doing. Justice has never been produced by anybody in recorded history, because somebody's always been mistreated, and somebody's always not getting the help that they need, as far back as I can remember, and as far back as I've read about. Somebody was being mistreated. So we're trying to produce justice, meaning nobody gets mistreated.
Gotcha.
And everybody who needs help will get it. This is a code
800 450. Yes, sir. 800-450-7876. Ngozi is calling from Chicago on line 6. Ngozi, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr. You have a question for him?
Yes. I want to make a statement first that when I first became acquainted with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's theory of color confrontation, she mentioned Mr. Fuller in it, and that was the most precise psychoanalytical analysis of racism that I've ever seen, and I read a lot about those things. So, Mr. Fuller, honor to speak with you finally. I first became aware that you were still around on this Carl Nelson show, and it really, your wisdom really has unearthed new realms of thought for me. I understand a lot of what you are talking about, and it makes perfect sense to me. What I want to ask you is if my name is A, and I'm telling you I'm fighting for the green people, and the other person's name is B, and they say they're fighting for the green people too. If A downgrades or attacks B, and B doesn't respond to that, who is violating the establishment of a code for justice, A or B?
The person who is subordinate is always beholden to the person who is not, if I understand the question. So in the system of white supremacy, all prisoners of war, all people of color are equal under any circumstance. They are all equal because they're equal prisoners.
Right.
The system applies to them. The prison master is always white in the system of white supremacy. So the white person in any situation is in a superior position. We have already been defeated. It's not like we're in the process of being defeated, and we have been defeated ever since the system of white supremacy began, because that's how it became white supremacy. Supreme means that's a finished job. That's not a halfway job or something like that. That's not nothing they're practicing on trying to do. That's a complete job, and they're just keeping it in place. And it explains all that in the textbook. You know, white supremacy goes through 4 phases: establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement. They're in the refinement stage now. They long ago completed that power thing. Black people just have the power to beg, like prisoners of war. Like I said, you always keep it in mind that we're all prisoners of war if you got color in your skin. And we, so far, have lost the war. But I put the lost in quotes, because you haven't really lost the war until you stop fighting altogether. Stop struggling. You just give up and say, I'm not going to ever try to get away no more. I'm not going to ever try to get out from under this. Black people have not stopped doing that, so the war is not over. But we are prisoners of war because the white supremacists dictate what we do 24/7, regardless of where we are on the planet, directly and indirectly. So if I understand your question, if black people have a falling out with each other about how we're going about fighting racism or any other fight that we have, we're just prisoners fighting in the prison yard. And it doesn't mean anything except we lose because we're fighting each other and we're not going to gain nothing from it because we don't have nothing to gain. Neither one of us have anything. The white supremacists have us all.
So why argue? It clarifies my understanding of the code. Thank you, Mr. Baba Fuller.
I hope I'm putting it out so I'm understood. And Neely Fuller has a huge flaw too. And I want this for everybody who's listening today. I have a serious flaw on these programs, and that flaw is people ask me questions, and I get wrapped up in something that I'm illustrating, and I get away from the question that they are asking. Don't let me get away with that, because if you let me get away with that, the white supremacists they know how to manipulate people like that. All right? You ask a question, and they go all around Robin's barn. And don't answer your question. They are good at that, but it sounded like they answered your question. So practice on Neely Fuller on this program or any other program you hear me on. Say, Fuller, you're not answering my question. Put it on me. I'm no exception to the rule.
But you answered mine.
Yes. Hey, they say, wait a minute. You're not answering my question, Fuller. Come on. You're a fellow prisoner now. One to another. Answer my question and jerk me back to reality because I'll get away from it. I'm not doing it deliberately, but that don't have nothing to do with it. It ain't personal. It's business, like they say in the mafia. It ain't personal. We got to stop being personal. It's all business. Something either works or it doesn't. We're trying to get a job done. That's the main thing. Like General Curtis LeMay said, the point is to hit the target, not to just fly over it and try to hit it. Hit the target. Otherwise, why go?
All right. Thank you, Ngozi. Thank you for your question. Real quick, because we run out of time, Mr. Fuller, but there's a bunch of tweet questions I got for you, so I'm just going to ask you just one. Which is the bigger problem for non-white people, racism or colonialism?
Same thing. See, that's another thing I can talk about on another program at great length. In fact, I've written down, it's not in the textbook, maybe about 40 different types of things that you can call it if you just want to. And I've told people, call it white supremacy. The white supremacists don't like that, which means you're hitting a nerve. They'll say white supremacy exists, but I ain't one of them. Okay? Then who are you? See, that's a question. Are you on board with it or not? What do you do to prove that you're not one? Because I have no way of knowing whether you are or not, sir or ma'am. Always be polite. Don't start arguments. That's a part of the code. The code says never have an argument with anybody. Have a conversation. And you do that through questions and answers.
All right. Real quick, though, another question that's from me. We got 60 seconds, they just told me. You've been talking about racism, white supremacy for quite some time. Now, all of a sudden now, it's jumped into the lexicon of the rest of the world. You hear it and people in Congress, even the president talks about it.
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts about it.
Well, the white supremacists have figured out how they're going to squirm out of it when it comes their way, the individual white supremacists. is they're going to say, who? Not me. I'm not supreme over nothing. And
Gotcha.
then you go into the question mode. And that's where the book comes in. What questions to ask white people? All right. They're in there. Okay.
Thank you, Neely Fuller Jr., because we got to run. But thank you, and thank you for all the information you shared with us today. All right, folks.
Mr. Fuller, that was, and I got a teaser for you too. This is SPWD Speak, and I'll be bringing you these ancestors now. And some of them are still alive, and some of them are still out there with the boots on the ground. And then none of this clown stuff, sounding educated, but really not saying anything. And that's one of the things is really is wearing on me, because it's a lot of brothers and sisters out there speak the language and vernacular is off the hook, but they ain't saying anything, because how could you say anything when you really don't even understand what you're talking about? You're just using big words and you're trying to make yourself more than what you are, and that's a shame, because we don't have time to waste. We really don't. And so when our people are doing or trying to learn something, try to learn something that it's going to be fulfilled. And this is one of the things I got to get back to. Stop wasting my time with people who ain't really doing anything. Seriously. Just stop wasting my time with arguments that I don't heard 1,000 times. So this is my teaser right here, so check it out.
El-Haq Shabazz. Shabazz was not an Arabic name. He got that from the Messenger in the Nation of Islam. We the tribe of Shabazz. But let me say this before people, I hate when this happens with us. We love a dead hero. Malcolm didn't have a legacy. The only legacy Malcolm had was the same one all of us who followed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had, and that's we're all good speakers and we have information. We are the best speakers. That's Khalid Muhammad. That's Louis Farrakhan. That's Shahrazad Ali. That's Muhammad Ali. That's Malcolm X, and many others who did not become as famous as we have. His legacy is that he was able to take the teachings that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us and express them in such a way that it captivated the people, gained their interest, and gained him admiration. Okay? Malcolm didn't have those kind of skills. I was there after 65. He didn't have those kind of skills. He was a good brother as long as he stayed with the teachings of the messenger, just like Muhammad Ali. Remember how wonderful he was, how good he could talk, until he left the messenger's teachings and took on some of the Eastern Arabic, Sunni or Shiite or whatever those teachings were that they took from the Eastern Islam that had been here hundreds of years, and they never came for us. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the only one that came to teach black people about anything about Islam and taught us that there was another God we could choose other than Jesus. Nobody had told us that. Nobody. And so
let me ask you.
When I hear
let me ask you this then.
Malcolm.
So that's the teaser. I'll be doing that Thursday morning, and she will break down the problem between relationship. And everybody always speak of the book she wrote, The Black Man Guide to Understand the Black Woman. But I hardly ever hear brothers speak about the other book she wrote, The Black Woman Guide to Understand the Black Man. So we're going to get into all that probably for the rest of this month right here. And I'm going to try to bring you things that people may be talking about, but just like I say, just like eating food without the spice. If you don't have the information and you just sound good, you ain't saying nothing. SPWD Speed, your brother from a different mother and a father.
silence is just a shadow on the wall. Something buried deep, something in the fall. But I still see the scars upon the land, while you're reaching out with a clean white hand. Yeah. You talk about progress and liberty, but you skip the chapters on slavery. The silence is heavy, the truth is cold. You're still protecting the lies you were told. How can I forgive you? How can I move on? How can I forgive you when you think your people did nothing wrong? Yeah, you think your people did nothing wrong. You wanna walk forward, but you won't look back at the chains in the field and the whips on the rack. You say get over it, it was long ago, but you're still reaping the seeds that they chose to sow. You won't admit where the wealth came from. Why? You beat in the skin of a stolen drum. How can I forgive you? How can I move on? How can I forgive you when you think your people did nothing wrong? It's not just a memory, it's in the bones. It's in the bones. It's in every brick and every stone. How can there be peace with no accountability? Your people did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. 400 years and you see nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. This is the way OGJ Speed be thinking some days. Yeah.